Like I said, my name is Kaitlyn Kelly, and I am from East Perry Elementary School. It's in Heiser, Kentucky. It's a P8 school with roughly 800 students. I'm currently the 3rd grade math teacher, and I see about 90 students a day. So I'm ready. Do I have it? Where? Oh, sorry. All right, so about me. This is my 3rd year teaching, so it's my 1st year teaching math. So this summer, let's kind of set the background a little bit. I got a call from my principal, and so first, you never really want to call from your principal in the summer. So I knew something was really up. So he said, "Can you teach math this year?" And the first thing I said was, "Well, of course I can. I can do anything." And then he's like, "Well, do you realize you're accountable now?" And then the fear hits you. You're like, "Oh my God, I am accountable now." So this is kind of where my project began. Back this summer when I thought, I know what group is coming up, and I know their attendance issues. So let's keep going. So Kentucky has a truancy problem. Among other things, we have a truancy issue. So in the 2015-16 school year alone, 60% of your students were considered truant. 40% of those were considered habitually truant. So that means it was rare to see them at school versus them being outside of school. And under Kentucky law, a student with 3 unexcused absence or tardies in a school year is considered truant. What teachers in here can think of that 3 students immediately? Because they're in my head right now as I do this. And I kind of just want to show you what this picture is. So the circle is elementary, the triangle is middle, and the square is high school. And I'm from Perry County, and you can barely see the outline of Perry County. And that's alarming for me as an accountable math teacher. Just another statistic from the Department of Education, and this is chronic absentee by district. And as you can see again, Perry County's red. So that is an alarming statistic to me as a math teacher again. And I'm sure you can see your counties and you're thinking, oh my gosh, we also have a truancy issue. All right, so again, this is by Education Cooperative. So the KVEC is fairly dark, but the one that actually, which Perry County falls in, is right towards the bottom as high chronic absentee. So you can see there is an issue. So what do I do? So first identify my problem. How can I provide the same instructional support to my students who are absent versus the students who are sitting in my classroom? Basically, I can't cheat them out of the education they need just because they're not at school. How can I get these students accountable for their learning? And how can I grow as an educator in an accountable content area? All right, so here's my proposal, and this, my mom was so proud, so she'd take my picture, of course. She was so proud of me. So to close the gap between the absent and my content, my goal was to record myself to be available virtually to my students. So with the purchase of my swivel observation tool, which you can see it moves when I move with no assistance, I record myself in all direct instruction. So as teachers, we don't spend a whole lot of time in direct instruction, but when I do, I'm always recording myself, no matter what area I'm teaching. And videos are limited to 10 minutes maximum, so I only have a short period of time to get that content covered and available to my students. And also, I have to keep students engaged, so I do try to be kind of animated while I'm going. So they're pretty funny to watch. So here is the swivel device. All right, so did I miss anything? Who can think of that student who comes to your desk after a day and like, well, what did I miss? I'm like, nothing. We sat here all day. We did nothing. So after an absent or excused or unexcused, I don't even worry about why they weren't there. A student has 1 day to view my previous lesson. So first I decided to do a Google website. And I found out that my parents were not Google savvy. They're not at all. So that's where my first speed bump came into play. But then I realized how great my students were with YouTube alone. So I made a very private YouTube channel that only my students have access to these videos. Students are allowed to view the video as many times as needed to grasp the content. And finally, students are required to complete the makeup work or complete a formative assessment to show their levels of understanding. So improvements in the classroom, and here's my babies. The kids are like, well, what did I miss, Miss Kelly? Students were taking responsibility for their learning, and that was an amazing aspect. I had students who were there that day who said, Miss Kelly, can I please go back and watch your video? I missed how to simplify fractions. And I'm like, oh my God, absolutely. And students who are present are going back and assisting, and the standardized test scores have dramatically improved from fall to winter. And I have to say that had something to do with this project. I had students who I know who are chronically absent were going up to like apprentice to proficient. And I know that they didn't get the content because they were there. And overall, my classroom management has shifted. I was seeing myself in some of the faces I would give my students, and I thought, I can't learn if someone was giving me that face. So I learned how to be a better classroom manager. I figured out that I can't teach kids when I give them the glare, as we all know what I'm talking about. And I was able to show students some pretty poor behavior I was observing that maybe they didn't see before, and I was like, hey, well, look at this. And they're like, oh my gosh, my students were taking accountability into that. And so some future goals, of course, we're teachers, so we're always thinking, what else can I do? So videos for students pulled for special educational services. They are now, if they are not included in the classroom, so inclusion, they are now seeing what content I'm teaching, and they're hearing the same words and using the same vocabulary that my general ed students are using. Record parents for parent communication. I thought it would be such a great idea to have students record themselves before maybe parent-teacher night to show what some of the highlights are going on in our classroom and allow students to record themselves teaching. We're always trying to push our students to be the teachers, and we're just the facilitators. So I'm going to see how I can get my students to teach the content and record themselves doing it. So I'm really excited to see what happens. And thank you so much. I was very blessed to receive this grant to be able to incorporate this into my classroom. It wasn't always easy. There were some, speed bumps along the way with the Google Sites, but I was very honored and blessed to receive this grant, and thank you very much.